Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, aliens of all ages. This is Jack, as of Jack of Models. That's the show you're tuning into right now. And I have come here to chew bubblegum and build models, and I'm all out of bubblegum. So that's where you guys come in, because now you're going to be part of the show because you're going to, see what's I hope is going to be the greatest 30 to 45 minutes of my life, or hopefully yours, entertainment wise speaking. Anyhow, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I'm doing, coming to you live and direct, well, on tape, really, well, on video, from the lovely city of New Brighton, Minnesota, where there's nothing really cool about. We do have stockyard days, but anyhow, you didn't come here for that. You came here for model building, and that's what I'm about to do. I'm going to start out with my first show. It's going to be a little bit different in the future. Going to do some model building, make some geeky models. Whether they start out geeky like a Batman figure kit or a Batmobile or kit from Knight Rider, or if we're going to take a model truck and turn it into US1 or something like that. At any rate, there's always going to be something going on, and then we're going to go into, there's probably going to be some 3D stuff, some 3D modeling and printing, some costuming, some cosplay stuff that will go along with the model that I'm working on at the time. Today's episode, boy, are you in for a treat, because today's episode, I will be making the Polar Lights model of Dick Tracy. And as you can see, I'll be going over this in a little bit with the parts and everything, and how it's made. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Dick Tracy started in October of 1931. He was originally called Plainclothes Tracy and appeared in the Detroit Mirror, created by Chester Gould, who stayed on from 1931 to 1972, writing the adventures of this detective who used forensic science to solve crimes and to face criminals like Flat Top, who, the top of his head was flat. And then there was Prune Face, who kind of had a wrinkly face. And and it went for a while, and then he contacted Joseph Patterson over at the Chicago Tribune, New York News Syndicate, and said, "Hey, Joseph, I want to take this nationwide." And Joseph was like, that's kind of a good idea, but I don't like the name Plainclothes Tracy. It doesn't roll off the tongue. It's a little bit long, and although it had a point, because back then, police detectives wore plain clothes, and they were plainclothes police officers. So he decided we should change the name to Dick Tracy, which was a colloquialism. I'm not even going to try to say that word right, because I know I can say that word right, but right now I just didn't. And anyhow, it was another word for detective back in the day. So that was the start of a beautiful friendship, and well, I'm not sure it was a beautiful friendship, but it was the start of a comic strip that has gone all those years from 1931. They're still being published in some places today in 2019. They made a movie back in the 80s that was a lot of fun. They made movie serials back in the 40s and 50s, like Dick Tracy versus Cue Ball and so on and so forth. In 1946, they introduced one of the first technological gadgets for a comic strip character called the two-way wrist radio, which was literally just a analog watch with a screen speaker kind of combo where, "Hi, this is Tracy. Can I get some help here?" It was basically, that was it. In 1964, they changed that over to a wrist TV radio, for lack of a better term, which also inspired Martin Cooper to invent the smartphone. And then a little while later, after Chester retired and Max Allan Collins took over, who is, in my mind, best known for writing the Techno Comics title Mickey Splains Mike Danger, which was a good book. It was a really good book, and he changed it again and went from wrist radio to wrist TV to finally wrist computer, which is of course the precursor to smart watches. Um, Over the years, Tracy tried to change with the times, and in the 50s and 60s, they started doing space stories where he had a space coupe and he went to the moon, and then some, small country with, high hopes for the future and dreams of the future went and they were called the United States of America. May have heard of them. They decided to go to the moon in 1969, and then they said, "Oh, there's no people on the moon." So back at Dick Tracy, where they were, on the moon, and Dick Tracy's son married a woman named the Moon Maid because she was from the moon, and apparently that's a common name up there when we thought there were people up there, and then they weren't. So now we're back to that anyhow. So basically, he's just a detective who used forensic science before forensic science was a big thing on TV with NCIS and CSI, and I could sit here all day and read off titles of TV shows that use it. But anyhow, we're going to get started on this model. I'm going to build the model. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to do a review of the kit. I'm also going to be doing a 3D part that I'm going to be adding. So there will be a little bit about the printing and the design of the 3D item. So sit tight, relax. I hope you enjoy the time you're going to be spending here with me today, as I will be enjoying the time I'm spending with you. Okay, so a little bit about the tools that I use. First of all, one of the big things that I recommend having is an X-Acto knife, because you sometimes will need to cut things or shave things down. Paintbrushes, always a good thing. I like these paintbrushes. I do have a link to them in my comments down below. I tend to use, I've been using these, I should say, these acrylic paints. They come in brilliant colors and they're really easy to work with. And the nice thing is you paint with a paintbrush and you really don't get many strokes in the actual painting. A big thing to have is Tamiya putty. Now this is great stuff. This is the white putty. You put it into the cracks of your model, sand it down. It looks like there's nothing there. It's a great way to cover up all those, where the pieces come together and stuff. Sandpaper, always a big thing. Sand everything down. And, of course, filler primer. This stuff is amazing. This makes things look so much nicer. But the big important thing, which also, like anything else, pretty much here, we'll have a link down below, is a nippers. A nippers is the way to remove the pieces from the sprue. It's nice, clean. You don't cut yourself like I used to go and take and get the knife out, the X-Acto knife out, and do one of these things, trying to cut them off of the trees, and that is not a good thing. I have a lot of cut fingers to prove that's not a good thing. But see, you get the nippers out, you go ahead, you find the tree piece that you want removed, get it in there nice, and boom, nice clean cut. You get a little bit of plastic on the edge of it. You probably want to go through and give it a little cut to remove it so it's smooth. Here it doesn't really matter because it is inside or underneath the arm, so you wouldn't see that so much as you would, say, on the side here, like this one right here. You're going to see that, you'd see that a little bit more because it's right on the seam. But then you're also going to sand and cover up the seam. So I'm going to go and get the rest of this cut out, the rest of the kit cut out, and we'll be right back. All right, and we're back with some of the parts all put together and primed. I used the filler primer, and I wanted to make it easier to paint these. So what I'm doing is I put together the body, put together the head, as you can see. Basically what I want to do is I want to paint these separately and then put them together, because otherwise, you know, it's hard to get the paint on some small pieces. But I'm going to show off this piece right here. This would be obviously the head of the figure, and you can see I didn't really have to do much to keep it from getting a seam right down from the ear. A little bit of putty and a little bit of the paint. As you can see, the hat will go on the head eventually, but I want to paint that separately so I can get the yellow under the brim of the hat before I actually attach it to Tracy's head. But then you'll have, you know, kind of a little thing going on, and then of course he will be attached to there. So I've got the head, the hat, the body. Now this one, the barrel, the garbage barrel, as you can see, it's a little rough on the sides, but I did this on purpose. Put a little bit of putty and I sanded it down kind of rough, because I figured a lot of times these barrels looked like they were welded together. So once I put this down, I'm going to go down with a layer of rust paint, and then I am going to take sandpaper and just lightly go over certain areas and kind of give it some rusty scratches. The fire escape, all in one piece now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you something that I did, is that when I built this piece before I painted it, I literally just put down each individual step on the one side, let it dry, and then I put the second side down, glued it down, let it dry. That way we got a nice stable ladder. It's not going anywhere. The one piece that's weird in this kit is this bracket here. This one, it goes to the wall to hold against the wall and against the bottom of the fire escape ledge, but there is no actual connection point. There's no pin, there's no hole. There's just a light slot in there to glue it in, so you just have to glue it in and make it work. The cobblestone ground is kind of nifty. I'm going to spray this down with a little of the, that's kind of a rocky paint to make things look like they're made out of stone. And what you do is you paint it down over the top. But what I do is I'm going to paint it down to give it a little bit of a rough texture. Then I'm going to go back over it with the gray primer, so you look like there's, you know, rough sand and stuff. And then I will go over and paint the cobblestone separately, and then maybe put down a wash to get the in between the cobblestones. And with the wash, that's, you know, taking like a darker color paint or a different color paint, mixing it with water until it's really runny, and then pouring it or painting it into the areas, and then going back and just wiping off the upper layers, or dabbing off the upper layers, so that the wash will dry on the inside but not on top. And I'll be doing that as well with Tracy's head. Is once I paint his face flesh tone, I will wash it down with a darker tan to get into all the crevices, and then I will pat down his face so that the highlights stay flesh tone, but the indentations and the all that you know, display, all of that information, or all of that design work will make it look like he's actually three-dimensional. Finally, I do have the wall. And I will be doing something similar where I will be washing this down with the masonry color, which is between the bricks, and then I will go over and dry brush the masonry bricks with a brick red, which means I will take the red paint, get it on the brush till there's just, and then wipe the brush off till very little is coming off, then go over and it'll coat the tops of the bricks, but not the masonry in between. And of course, paint the window and everything. And then there's the metal wrought iron gate that goes over the window, which will be painted black as well. And I'll probably do a little bit of rust design on there. These areas here will will probably stay fairly close to this color as it is now, but I will probably wash it down with a darker gray to get into all the holes so it kind of stands out a little bit more. And we will put those together, and I will paint. I probably am going to go over his shoulders a little bit because, as I noticed, and the top of his leg here, there's a little bit of a seam going on, and I want to clear those up. I didn't fill the seams in the sleeves where the shoulders meet because of the fact that jackets have a sleeve, or have a seam there, so there's probably still going to be a seam no matter what you do. That's not out of the ordinary to see a line there. But the suit is going to be black, shirt going to be white because we're going with the basics of the time period and of the Dick Tracy, and of course flesh tone for the hands. His shoes will be glossy black with white socks, and those are separate. I will paint those and then add those. And then the tie, which will go right in here, is going to be painted red, and then I will put that in there. And then of course we will start constructing the whole thing with him climbing or jumping from the fire escape and going after the villain of the week. So stay tuned, and when I come back I will have these pieces together and painted and a little bit more of the review. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, here's the final product. This is Dick Tracy going after his whoever he's going after. Little explanation of what I did. Pretty much I kind of kept with the solid color scheme of the black suit with the red tie, and of course the yellow hat with the black hat band. I did do a wash on his face to bring out his with a darker colored skin tone to bring out his facial features a little bit more. Went with some gloss black on the shoes, on the firearm. With the garbage can, I went in and did a little bit of I did a rust coat, and then I dry brushed some black over the top of it so it looks rusty. On the top of the garbage, you can't really see, but there's all kinds of little detail there. That was a combination of solid brushing on the box and the can there, and then a little bit of wash and dry brushing of browns and blacks in the garbage. The badge I just mounted on the bottom, and as you can see, I'll bring it up close. As you can see, I used some of that rock flex stone kind of stuff to bring out the ground, and then I went over it with like a light violet or lilac to get the color. I went with some gloss black on the stanchions, and then I dry brushed some rust onto them, as well as if you look in the background right up here, I've got the window. We went with gloss black on the bars on the outside. We went with a brown for the window frames, and then I went with a light beige on the shade, just to give it a little bit of a color and a texture. And as you can see on the back, we just dry brushed the what was called Tuscan red to make the bricks stand out a little bit. And then we took a little bit of a dark gray down here, and just to bring that stucco or that concrete stuff out. But overall, it was a fun kit to make. I really like the detail on it. I really would love to do more like this, but that is the Dick Tracy model. I hope you enjoyed that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, aliens of all ages, I appreciate that you sat through this entire episode, and I know it's a little bit jarring because every time you see me, I'm wearing something different because I didn't film straight through on one day. This will change in the next episode, I promise, because I'm here for you. But I do hope you enjoyed what I did. Next week's episode, or the next episode, I'm not sure if I'm going to do them every 2 weeks or so on and so forth, but the next episode will be a little bit more, well, it'll still be a little disjointed, but by the third episode, I promise I will have things under control and the continuity will be better. But I do like making these videos, and I hope you like watching them. Please go down below, subscribe, click like, give me a thumbs up. Share this around, leave some comments, let me know what you think of the first episode. Let me know where I need to change things up a little bit, because I really do appreciate the comments like that. I will be making it a little more cohesive in the future, but right now I wanted to get episodes going, and then I will get the format up and running and have like a nice backdrop and the same shirt every time, stuff like that. So thank you again for watching. My name is Jack, also known as Jack of Models. You're known as you. You're known as awesome. I'm trying to be awesome, and I hope you enjoy the show. Have a great afternoon, evening, morning, whatever time it is out in YouTube land, and we will see you next time on Jack of Models. Jack out.